Welcome to 2020. It's still weird to say that that's a year. We're in the year 2020. And I really hope this is going to be a great year. But I gotta start somewhere that is probably going to get interesting really fast. So, today is called Where I Stand. And the reason for this is because I'm going to start this with I hate politics. I do. I really do. For like a billion different reasons, and I can go into that later. But the reason I'm doing this is because it is a year that we're going to vote. It is the year that we're going to vote on who we believe is president. And one thing that people seem to fail to understand is a lot of the times this has already been decided when we voted for who was going to represent us in the Electoral College and all of the crazy stuff that goes on there that you feels like you need a degree to understand. And not just a degree, like a degree in political science, because it's its own demon there. But it is that year. It's been 4 years since 2016 when we voted for our current president. And now we get to vote again. We either get to keep our current president or we're going to get a new one. That's a lot of stuff right there. Just in and of itself, that's some pretty heavy stuff. And I want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about political stance per se. I'm not going to be talking about like, oh, this is who you gotta vote for. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to dictate who you're gonna vote for. That's entirely up to you and your decision. Each individual person has a vote. They're over the age of 18. They're a legal citizen. You have the right to vote. You're gonna vote for whoever you want. That is your right. I'm not trying to take it away from you. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm trying to get some things off my chest, but also just to kind of clarify some of the things that are gonna come up, I'm sure, as this year continues on. So one of the basic things that I want to get out is where I stand. I stand for a lot of things that I feel are basic human rights. I don't think that people should be struggling, working a full-time job to feed their family. Because let's face it, a full-time job is 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. 40 hours. That is what defines a full-time job. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of time that you're spending away from home. And a lot of the times that's 9 hours because you still have to take a lunch while you're there, and then maybe 10 hours because 30 minutes either way to work, ideally. So that's a lot of time that you're spending away from your house, from your family, to make a living. And I know that people are always like, oh, well, if you're doing a minimum wage job, that's just supposed to be a college starter job, or it's supposed to be, a starting point. You're supposed to start there. But here's the thing. I have a college degree, and I still had to work some minimum wage jobs. I worked really hard in my life so that I could hopefully be self-sufficient, and I had a really hard time with that. I think the best job that I've had, that I think was a really good job all around, I was making like $12 an hour, which is more than minimum wage, but still not great, especially with a college degree. You're supposed to be making this $40K a year, and that equates to somewhere around $25 an hour, and that's not anywhere near what I was making. And I was working really hard. I was putting out applications. I was putting in my work to do it. And it wasn't happening for me. And it wasn't for lack of trying. It wasn't that like, oh, as soon as I got the job, I gave up and started doing it. No, I gave myself some time to get some money together to start paying for my stuff instead of asking for help from other people. And I was putting out applications. I was applying to other places that would hopefully hire me and pay me more money. But I would never get calls back, and if I did get emails back, it was always that I wasn't qualified. And never what exactly I wasn't qualified for. Was it because I didn't have this experience? Was it because that my degree wasn't in the right thing? I never got feedback, so I don't even know why I wasn't qualified. So that's the whole part of it. I want people to be able to work any job full time and earn a living wage, because let's be honest, if somebody's doing that job, you need them. If you look at any fast food chain, you're going there, you're eating, you need somebody to do that job. And you think people with a college degree are going to be doing that job? No, they're going to be people who are high school diplomas, or people who are working, I don't know. I got distracted by something that popped up on my phone. They're going to be working other people who don't have other experience, or maybe even somebody who wants to be management and wants to work management of a chain like that, get that kind of experience. It's not an easy job either. You have to deal with people all day, and let's face it, there's a lot of people who feel entitled to a lot better service than they care to give out to somebody else. I've seen people straight up get upset, get angry about things not being exactly what they wanted, and to an extent I can understand that, it's a little frustrating, but a lot of the time it's not the person that you're yelling at's fault. So these kinds of jobs aren't easy. Somebody has to do it, obviously, because we have that job open. Somebody needs to do it, yet we're acting like you can live without them, that they should be working 100 jobs at the same time. It's a job that someone can do that maybe didn't have the same opportunities that you did. I know a lot of people who didn't go to college because they couldn't afford it, because it was too difficult. Or maybe they had to go to work early because their family needed the money, because their parents had a job that didn't pay them a living wage. So that's its own beast there that I feel gets really controversial sometimes, which I really don't understand. Another one is healthcare. I really don't see why it's so difficult to get care from anybody, because let's face it, we all need it. Yes, everybody has a different opinion on how that should go about. Some people want free healthcare, some people want better insurance, some people want a lot of things. I don't know what the answer is, and that's a lot of what I'm saying for all of these things. I don't have the answer for everything, but I do have basic beliefs that shouldn't be controversial, but are. Like people having food and medicine and enough money to be able to afford clothing and food and medical. And those are some of the basic stuff. There's other stuff like, and I've talked about it before, abortions and a lot of these things, sex education, access to birth control of all kinds. And somehow a lot of these things end up being political. And it gets really frustrating for me because I don't always understand why. But they are. And having the beliefs that I do, I fall a lot of the times in the middle ground. And here we're going to the political danger side, so if you're going to get offended, please go somewhere else. If you must listen, listen. And feel free to put your opinion in the comments, but I'm telling you now that I'm going to delete anything that's just straight up garbage. And by garbage, I mean you're just yelling profanities and or getting obscenely defensive by using arguments that aren't really arguments. So you start name calling and shouting out profanities for no reason, you're getting deleted. If you're just there to state your opinion, feel free. Now, middle ground. I have views that are considered Republican views. How? I have a lot of strong opinions on businesses, but one of the biggest ones that I feel very strongly about is the whole abortion thing. Most of the time, Republicans are anti-abortion, and I am. I don't see the need for it. It doesn't seem like anything that causes any good, and everything I've seen about it, for the most part, is I don't support it. Yeah. But here's the thing. I also have very democratic views, like education. I might be anti-abortion, but I'm also very pro-sex education. You should know what you're doing. You should know how it works. You should know how to prevent a pregnancy if you don't want one. That, I feel, balances it a little bit, because, I don't want abortions to happen, but there's a bigger problem in why people are getting them, and I feel like if you fix the one, you fix the other. Yes, there are still things medically wise, like life-threatening and all of this stuff, that I'm not even going to touch, because that feels like something that a medical professional should be handling. Hence the reason why it's in the medicine field. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you all of the hundreds, I'm sure, reasons that people get abortions. But I'm against a lot of these, I just didn't want to get pregnant. Reasoning why I'm very pro-sex education. And again, those are very democratic views, which I don't quite understand, because they feel like they line up pretty well. Another thing is the way that immigrants are handled right now. I feel like it's a mess. Everybody gets a vote count kind of thing, like a limited number of people that come into the country from other places, instead of an overall limit. And places like England don't necessarily run out of people that can come over, because people aren't rushing over here because they're not in danger, versus other countries who are rushing over here because their lives are genuinely threatened and they're afraid and they're trying to provide a better life for their family, are denied because they've reached their cap for that country. Now, I don't understand it 100%, because again, I don't have a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate's degree in political science or any of this stuff. But I can see that there's something wrong there. When we deny people, and I'm forgetting the words now, when we deny people access into our country because they're seeking asylum, because we think that their lives aren't threatened, and they immediately go back and die. That was a life that we could have saved. And they came in the right way. This whole right way that everybody keeps talking about. They came in, they applied for asylum, and they got denied because we didn't think their lives were threatened. Yet the moment they went back, they died. Because they were. That's a problem. I don't know how to fix it, because again, I don't know how the system works 100%, but I know there has to be a solution. I know there has to be people who have the same viewpoint, who have the knowledge to create a solution. But we're living in a time now, unfortunately, that there's so much hate and tension when it comes to these things that it's hard to get a word in edgewise. Now, there's all of this stuff going on, and I would love to talk about this with other people. However, I've got very interesting views, as I've just mentioned, that I don't quite fall in line with either side. I don't really usually fall in line with many sides. I have opinions that kind of span everything, because I feel like every situation is a little different, and it varies based on your personal experiences and your views. Like, I'm Catholic, and I believe in God, and I'm very open about that. But I understand that there are other religions that don't believe in God. They believe in a different God by a different name. And I think they have a right to worship safely, because a lot of the times they have the same views as us. That was something that interested me a lot when I was in high school. I loved looking into them because they were so interesting, the parallels, and that's something that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge, and there comes a lot of hate from that. Like, almost everybody has some form of the golden rule that Christians have, which is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Almost all of them have that. Another part of that is that we have a tendency to criminalize groups of people who believe in a specific religion because of a few people who have radicalized it. Like this whole Muslims are terrorists. That's not true. Maybe some are, but not all are. But the same way, there are some Christians who are very violent, and that's not the teaching. The teaching is love. But there are still some people who will take that and use that to justify what they're doing. So even I won't say that all Christians are perfect. I think we should all be trying to be, but we're not. And we don't always get it right. All of this is partly to say that we all have differing views, and I try my best to be very respectful of everybody's viewpoints. I don't want to argue and name call. I genuinely want to trade ideas because I feel like that's the best way to come up with solutions. Because I only have my experiences to base things off of. Somebody else only has theirs. But if we talk to each other and we have conversations that say, hey, I see this problem and I think this might be a solution, I can counter by saying that is a problem, but I think this solution might be better. And we can talk about things. And the more opinions and people that have a part in this conversation, the better the solution can be. Because we don't always see everybody's side. Like, I have no idea what it's like to be a different ethnicity. To be white, to be black, to be Asian, to be anything else in this country. I don't have that experience. The only experience I have is being Hispanic. And because of that, I don't automatically assume that I know what they're going through. I see a lot of it, and I can acknowledge a lot of it, but I don't have any personal first-hand experience of what it's like. And I think to solve those kinds of problems about racism and all of that, we need to have everybody at the table to have that conversation, because everybody's experiences and viewpoints are different, and that's how you get a better solution. That's why think tanks are such a big thing, because you get so many people working on a problem, you're bound to find a good solution. You're bound to find several good solutions, and you can figure out which ones are going to be the best ones. And the hard part of this, because I feel like I need to say it. As much as I say that I have various Republican views, I have found myself time and time again unable to support the current president in anything. And the reason I feel the need to say this is because I don't understand how other people can. I'm not saying anything bad if you do. I'm saying I don't understand. And these 4 years have been probably some of the most confusing years as a person who loves to talk about these things, because I feel like that's how solutions are born. That's how ideas are created. This has been some of the most frustrating 4 years, because every time I see something that I don't agree with, I want to talk about it so I can figure out a better stance on it. I want to know what your viewpoint is so that I can better educate my viewpoint. But a lot of the times I'm met with violence and hostility when talking about the current president. And I hate it. Because that's not how we fix anything. That's not how we grow anything. That's not how we learn anything. And my reasoning for not liking him is because I don't feel like I could respect a person who incites so much violence, who encourages violence, who seems to have very disrespectful opinions of people, who doesn't seem to be able to acknowledge their own mistakes, who seems to have a really hard time being what we tend to define as a good person, and is very hypocritical. My reasons. Every time I see Trump rallies and videos and things like this, there's usually somebody there who's protesting. Now here's the fact of things. Not everybody is going to agree with you. So yes, some people feel the need to protest. I don't like you, I'm going to let you know that I don't like you and protest your viewpoints. And a lot of the times they're peaceful. They're just standing there and they're yelling and they're declaring their opinions. And let's face it, these rallies are open to the public. They're not private rallies. Like, they're allowed to be there. Yet they're always kicked out. They're always talked down on. And a lot of the times they're physically removed while being assaulted. Like, people are trying to rip stuff away from them. And instead of inciting peace or saying, hey, we all have disagreements, maybe, yes, if you want them to be removed by security, fine, but peacefully and respectfully. Instead, he's saying, you know, if somebody wants to go beat them up in the parking lot or whatever, go take care of them, and I'll pay your lawyer's fees. That's encouraging violence. And I don't understand how you can see that otherwise. when he was running, he made fun of people with disabilities. There was a reporter there who had a disability, and he just stood there and mocked them. That's bullying. That's being very insulting and disrespectful to somebody who's doing their job. Then there was this whole grab him by the pussy and locker room talk and all of this that is very blatantly sexism and very, very insulting. I can't understand how we can ignore all these things because, let's face it, we've had Republican presidents before. This isn't the first time it's happened. And I haven't felt this strongly against them before. Yes, not every president is perfect. I'm not saying the Democratic presidents are perfect or better or whatever. I'm saying that the current president, they're side to side. I'm not looking at their political stance. I'm looking at them as a person. I don't understand how you can support somebody like that. Because this is a person who's representing us to other countries, who's going in there and meeting other political leaders, who's making decisions like the decision to kill a general that might very well start a war, that is sending people out to fight this war, who's never served themselves, who's never gone and had to do the things that he's asking other people to do. There's all of these things that make me question how somebody can support them. And I want to educate myself. I want to know why. I want to know what it is that is causing you to support them and why not somebody else. Because there are other Republicans who would love to be president. Why this one? Why are we supporting him? I would love to know, because I don't get it. Because there are small children who look at the president and they want to meet him, they want to be like him. How many times do we hear in classrooms, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be the president of the United States. And this is the example that we're setting for them. Somebody who speaks like this to people, somebody who acts like this in public, somebody who used to openly mock and insult the previous president, and then goes and does a lot of the same things that he accused him of doing. I don't understand it, and I would love to have that conversation. But because of the kinds of people who seem to be supporting him, a lot of the times they get really defensive and angry and yell and profanities, hence my previous comment. Every time I try to go in there and talk to these people, they have a tendency to continually use very derogatory language to defend him. Like, oh, you don't understand, it's because you're this, it's because you're that, it's because of this. It's name calling and insulting, and that's not how you have a conversation. That's how you have argument. And I'm not saying that the other side is any better, because yes, they have a tendency to do a lot of the same things when it comes to him, but I've seen more of them sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, here is my list of evidence that says that he's doing these things. Here's my list of reasons why I don't like him. Here are the things that back up my reasons. And they're trying to educate themselves, and the other side doesn't acknowledge it a lot of the times. Or they'll rebuttal one or two and then resort to name calling. All of this aside, I still don't support any sort of violence. I feel like you should be able to say what you want when it comes to, oh, I support somebody, I support Trump, I support Hillary, I support whoever, Bernie Sanders, anybody who's running. You should be able to say who you support without being attacked or insulted. However, if you're going to be saying things like that are insulting, things that are derogatory, that's what you're encouraging back to yourself. So if you'd like to have a conversation, please let me know. I'd love to have a conversation with you. But if all you're going to do is be yelling and getting defensive, then I don't see a point in having a conversation with you. My bottom line for this is I want you to really think about the kind of person that you want to choose to represent you to other people during this next election. If you continue to support him, fine, I'm not here to change your mind. But it needs to be clearly understood what part of the job is, and part of the job is people. Having conversations, talking to people, respecting people, learning about other cultures, and not assuming that they're right all the time. Because let's face it, none of us are. Not even him.